Taylor Swift is joining Genshin Impact, and with her dashing entry, Navia has decided to take her place to become the new star of Fontaine, with the new element being introduced, Geo. Wait, huh? Oh, Geo was in the games from day one? Oh wow, it's been like 2 years since the last Geo character existed? Okay, well going on, Navia, the first Geo Claymore. Wait, don't we have like 2 of those already? Anyway, good news is, she is attack scaling. Actually, whether that's good news actually depends. Like, what is Geo's identity at this point? Well, despite being a Geo Claymore, Navia does have quite a few unique perks with her kit, so let's dig right into it. Navia has a very unique kit, and she functions as a main DPS or a sub DPS, depending on the team's setup. She can be a full on-fielder, or she could pop in for 2 to 4 seconds during her rotations, sing her chorus for her song, deal a lot of damage, and then pop off. Her kit revolves around crystallized shards, and her E. So, whenever a party member or herself picks up a shard, she will get 1 stack, up to 6. Her skill will have her blast her shards all over the enemies, with 2 charges. Each time she uses her skill, she will use 3 stacks maximum to deal damage. The more stacks, the more damage, of course. In addition, she can hold down her E, briefly pulling in surrounding shards and enemies very slightly, so this is pretty nice if the shards are spread about. For those wanting to use her as the main driver of your team, you will get 4 seconds of Geo infusion after using her E. So an idea of how her rotation will work for an on-field Navia is to use her E, use 1 normal attack string, and then use her E again, and follow that up with another normal attack string. For the sub DPS portion, you'd pop in, use her E twice, and pop off. Now her burst, oh boy her burst. Her burst has her showing off her huge knockers and blasting rockets from them. The range is about as big as Dia or Albedo's field, but it follows you, like Goro's burst, and it also does not consume one of the Geo Monument restrictions. It has a 12-second duration and 15 seconds of downtime, and the cost is 60. The damage isn't too much, despite cannons being firing, causing mass destruction, but it does give her crystallized stacks. It helps further with more crystallizations, so it's more of an enabler for her skill. Her other passive incentivizes you not to use Mono Geo. Considering you need crystallized shards, that wasn't always a good option anyways. So for each party member that's not Geo, Anemo, or Dendro, she will get a 20% attack boost, stacking up to 2 times. That means for her optimal teams, you'll want 1 Geo unit alongside her, along with 2 units that are either Pyro, Cryo, Electro, or Hydro. So Navia is set up as a damage dealer, and she can deal some pretty hefty damage. Her talent priority is going to be her elemental skill, then her burst, then her normal attack. You can ignore the normal attack completely if you want to build her purely as a sub DPS. All in all, Navia is not the same for Geo. Honestly, she's just a standalone unit that you have to kinda build a team around, but she can be pretty powerful in those teams. Sadly, she can't really make use of Goro, and at C6, Goro is still not her best option. Goro can, however, function as a way to get crystallized shards, but you really need C6 to make him any use to Navia. Artifacts for Navia can be tricky. Luckily, she gets an artifact set designated to her in 4.3. Well, I don't know how lucky that is because you have to farm an entirely new set. As a sub DPS, she is one of the rare units who can make use of Archaic Petra. She is very easily able to get the damage bonus for her team, and she can grant a 35% damage buff to whatever element she picks up that the crystallized shard is. So she is finally a unit who can really make use of the Archaic Petra set. As far as other options, she has many niche options like Emblem and the Hunter set. A good option may be Golden Troop, as it gives a large amount of damage to her skill. As a sub DPS, this may actually be pretty good. You can also mix and match any set that gives Geo damage, skill damage, or attack if you have no other options. Her artifact spread will be the normal attack, Geo damage, and crit. Now let's talk about her weapons. As for weapons, she can make use of any weapon that a main DPS would use, so focus on attack and crit stats here. Before you ask, I've already volunteered to be your personal servant weapon, so you're going to have to deal with the other options after me. So You can stay away from weapons that give EM, as EM is not very useful to her, and stick with attack scaling weapons. Sacrificial Greatsword may be a decent option with the skill reset, so you can get off 3 skills, but it's still not a great option overall. Her signature weapon is obviously her best option, but she can also make great use of Beacon of the Reed Sea and weapons like Wolf's Gravestone. Honestly, all of the 5-star options work great on her. Stone Thresher and Skyward Pride being the worst options, but as a main damage dealer, she can make use of both of them. For 4-star weapons, you'll want to use Serpent Spine or the new Milazine weapon that we get in the next update. The cardboard sword is actually pretty decent on R5. Not as good as me, as her personal save monger whom she swings around casually. Another option I don't recommend, but it's actually pretty great with the Pyro teams with Bennett, is the Battle Pass weapon Talking Stick. This weapon is a superb option because Bennett will infuse you with Pyro, so you can have the buff active for the attack bonus pretty much all the time. If you happen to get affected by other weapons, then you'll get elemental skill damage bonus as well. Now, let's discuss her teams and her best partner, Albedo. If you plan on running Navia as a main DPS, we need to talk about her Geo partners. Not only do these two match really well aesthetically, Albedo and Navia work really well in tandem. When you talk about 2 Geo units pairing together, you normally talk about Zhongli, but Albedo is actually her best partner. Zhongli will provide some resistance shred to all elements, but not as much damage to match Albedo. Albedo has constant Geo application and can make more crystallized shields, while Zhongli's pillar can be displaced rather easily. In addition, Geo particles are important because Navia does want her burst. Zhongli is still a fine option, but with the amount of crystallized shields you'll be getting, having a shield won't really be an issue for the Geo Resonance, and Geo Resonance will give her a hefty damage boost. If you lack both Albedo and Zhongli, you can make use of Goro. Goro works really well if you have C6. Other than that, if you don't have C6, I'd recommend running a sub DPS Ningguang. She can dish out quick spurts of DPS and is actually a pretty decent option. You could pair her with the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayer for an even higher attack buff for Navia. You can run her with many teams, but one of the best options is probably going to be Zhangling and Bennett. I mean, where are they not useful? Other sub-DPS options and Bennett are also really good. You might even be able to run 2 sub-DPS and just skip a healer, but Bennett really does want to be paired with her for the massive attack buffs that he gets. If you are running her as a sub-DPS, then you have a few more options. You probably want her to have the Archaic Petra so she can come in, do a quick nuke, pop off, buff everyone by 30%, and then you can continue with your day. One team option I see working really well is Navia, Neuvillette, Farina, and Jean, or something similar. She's able to buff everyone with Archaic Petra, and she can make her own crystallized shards thanks to her burst. You should be always getting the 35% Hydro buff because this is a mono elemental team as well. Many other team options exist, and when she's released, we'll be able to dive into more options, but her role is that of either a main damage dealer or a sub DPS. And so, the verdict. I expected more from Navia as the star that she is. She is definitely not saving Geo, and now I've given up all hope for Geo. She'll be a good standalone unit with decent numbers, but she doesn't synergize that well with other Geo units, and she doesn't change any existing Geo unit. Geo will stay in the sad state that they are, with not really having an identity as to what their purpose is, besides, I mean, I'm not even sure at this point. At least you'll have one more Geo option besides Ito. Her teams are quite solid, get it because she's Geo, but they won't be reaching the max potential of other reaction-based teams. I like her gameplay and I think it's unique, and despite me volunteering to be the piece of rock that she picks up off the floor and happens to pick up and blast out of her, I will be skipping her for other units, aka Arlecchino. I will be doing a funny 20 to 40 pulls to get the new Pyro Girl, because musket go boom. At least I'll be getting one unit who will explode her resistance into the enemy. Taylor Swift may be the star, but Navia shines brighter with crystallized shards. Good luck pulling for the pop star Navia, and good luck grinding yet another artifact domain. Still here? Great. Only about 1.8% of you are actually subscribed, and we managed to get to 1.8, so let's see if we can get that to at least 2%. Thank you so much for watching and the continued support. Until next time, Enigma out.